I really like this little barbershop sign because of the pictorial of the barber on it. It's from Trenton, New Jersey. That's pre-war too, that's 30s.
Signs. From the material to the typography to the paint and design, signs become a narrative into American business culture. And it's the American Sign Museum who has dedicated itself to preserving the art and history of commercial sign making.
The goal of the collection is to try to get as many signs from as many parts of the country made by as many different sign companies as possible, and to represent every type of method of fabrication, whether it's screen printed or gold leaf glass, whether it's neon, hand painted, etc. I want to be able to display the range of types of signs, and from various periods of time too.
Education is number one at the end of the day for the American Sign Museum. Their 20,000 square foot space takes you on a journey through the evolution of sign making, with replicated storefront displays to recreate what a typical, quote, Main Street USA could have looked like. There's everything from neon signs to murals, painted glass typography, and more.
Here, inherently, we find that we're so many different things to different people. First of all, it's a great place to bring family. It's a museum, yes, and you know, sometimes kids think a museum might be boring, but this is bright and colorful and very accessible. Anybody involved in historic preservation, academics, professionals, and into the world of what I call pop culture. If you think of people interested in what I call roadside Americana, anybody in the design field, architects, graphic designers, particularly if you're interested in typography, these are case histories in typography, and it's also a history of typography. I could do a tour through the museum and just talk about how typography has changed. If you're technical, or if you're a student of history, what the museum is, it's obviously a history of signs, but actually what it is it's a history of America as told through history of signs. If people leave here with a new appreciation for the people that make and design signs through time, I mean, because signs are everywhere and nobody thinks that someone's got to actually create that sign. I think if they leave here with a new appreciation for the sign industry and really the people behind it and what signs can do for the heart of America, small business, then I think we've accomplished our mission.
And now we have Allie joining us. You know, Allie, I was just at the Sign Museum a couple of months ago, and it was absolutely fascinating. So I've got to ask, how many signs do you think they have there?
It is. That was definitely one of the questions that I asked, and it's around 600, but keep in mind, there's only roughly about half of them on display. So if you take a second look at the beginning of this video when it's on Facebook later, you'll see we were kind of in a back warehouse where they have probably, again, about 300 signs that they are restoring and that they are collecting, because it takes time. If there's any broken neon, etc., they have to fix it. So what's also cool is they have a shop in the American Sign Museum called Neon Works that allows them to build custom signs and also fix any of those signs that they get possession of. So they will eventually be on display, and it's constantly growing, and they will still, they are working on doing something with that back area. And part of, you know, during COVID, as mentioned at the top of the show, or at the top of this package, that 20 to 30% of museums are struggling. They managed to come out on top, and this whole time during COVID, they've really had a chance to re-strategize what they're going to be doing with the museum, and that's going to be part of it, is really expanding that backspace and turning it into something great.
So I'm curious, this is such a neat idea and such a neat thing. Where did the idea for it spring from?
Yeah, good question. So this actually goes back when Todd used to work at a magazine called Signs of the Times. He worked there for about a quarter of a century, and that magazine actually started in May in 1906. His great-grandfather was the first editor, and so he always had this interest in history and, you know, and being a collector of signs. Fast forward to 1999. Keep in mind, Todd has all of these great connections in the sign industry because he had worked with signs at the Times for so long. He decided to open the museum, which was originally in the Essex building over in Walnut Hills. Come June 2012, that's when they found their current space now, which is the 20,000 square feet. And I want to add, I think this is a really fun fact, that back in 1965, there was the Highway Beautification Act that started limiting and outlawing billboards. And, you know, some people at the time were moving into the burbs, and the goal was to kind of just clean up downtown areas and cities. And so legislation really changed all of that, but now everything is kind of coming full circle, and cities and communities are trying to bring back the billboard. So if you go to Denver and some other cities around the U.S., that they're starting to try to bring back these neon signs and bring back those stories via sign making. So they all have a story of their own. And check out the American Sign Museum. There's so much to look at.
There really is. Yes, Howard Johnson's. I saw that. We were regular patrons of Howard Johnson.
Got hungry, didn't you?
Great. Yeah. Great job, Allie. Thank you so much. Clyde?